Hi Terry, hi Martin. Ali here. Just wanted to talk you through the design solutions that I've come up with for your garden. So first of all, this is the scale plan of the survey, and it's all fairly straightforward, but I just wanted to point out that this currently is approximately your boundary line. When I was on site, I spoke to you, Terry, about the distance here behind the garage and where it narrows to the gate here. It's not so obvious when you look at it, but actually from measuring up, we've got approximately sort of 5 meters here, which is plenty big enough to that back boundary, but it does narrow. It's kind of cheated. You don't sort of really realise it, but over in this corner, we've only currently got about sort of 4 meters. So when we come to build the garden, I think, first of all, obviously you want to try and remove some of this shrubs and trees and all this sort of growth at the back. And I think it would be really good to straighten this boundary line up and try and cheat a little bit extra here, which I think is your plot anyway. But at the moment, with this hedge in here, it's difficult to see because the hedge comes out here and you don't kind of realise it. But having measured it all up, you can see how much it does taper into the corner. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out. So what I've done with the designs that I've come up with is assumed that we will do that. And when we put this new boundary in, the new fence along the back here, that we'll just run it perpendicular to the house, and you get a little bit of extra space there, and we'll have plenty of room for all your entertainment space in the back there. So that's the first thing I wanted to sort of show you, and then I'm just going to run you through two options that I've come up with. So I'm just going to sort of bring this across here so that you can see option number one, which, as you can see, is using sort of curves, fluid lines. I've gone for a little bit of both, really. I started looking at doing a curve in front of the conservatory. It didn't quite work, and it ate too much into the lawn area. So I've kind of gone for a bit of a compromise and used curving lines that kind of sweep into some straight edges, and curved it off there around the edge of the conservatory. So what this does essentially is gives you a lovely big entertainment zone at the back here. We've got plenty of room for dining. I mean, I've scaled in for a dining table and chairs for plenty of people, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, up to 10 people there. And that's all to scale. And I think, if we do cheat that a little bit at the back, then we've certainly got plenty of room for that. And it also gives you a nice area to sit in comfy seating around the sort of circular area. Let me just take off some of these features, and I'll put them back on in a minute, but I just want to show you the main sort of base plan first, and we'll take away some of these things, take away some of those things like that. There we go. Right, so you can see the overhead plan here is to create a circular kind of chill out area, chill out zone here, which will just be lovely for evening sun. You'll get the most of the kind of evening sunshine there, and you'll get the advantage of those lovely views, obviously up in that corner. And I take your point, Terry, that you don't want an awful lot of planting, and I know that we're sort of making a bit of a compromise here, that the only areas of planting that I have put in are suggestions for kind of making this a little bit more uniform, with some squared off box planters. I think something like a stainless steel box planter would be really nice. It would tie in with the whole contemporary feel. So there'll be a little bit of planting just in containers that I think you can cope with, and these illuminated containers here at the back. And then really the only thing we've added is over in this corner. So this is the real sort of feature planter, if you like. So let me zoom in here for you. So in effect, this raised bed, this will be raised rendered block work, painted, you know, white or cream, off-white, and it becomes a real feature. It's something lovely to look at from your seating area here. You've got this raised planter, and behind it I'd like to do that feature wall that we were talking about, which will be in lovely sort of stonework, which is actually a stone veneer that gives you a lovely kind of slate effect. Just ignore the texture pattern. This is just the only textured pattern that I could find on this software that I'm using. But I'll show you, let's show you the actual picture of what I have in mind, if I can find it. Here we are. Right, sorry, there we go. So this is the kind of effect that I've got in mind, is this sort of textured surface here, which is all bumpy and lovely. It's just a veneer sort of product. It's a stone cladding, essentially, that goes on like a tile with proper sort of outdoor fixative adhesive. It's used here as a water feature. This is just from the Marshalls catalogue. It's used here that there'll be a water wall coming down, but we can use it just on its own, and it comes in lots of different colours. I like this slate colour, and it will tie in with the paving. So going back to your model, here we go. This will include sort of feature lighting. One of the things I want to put in this wall is the idea of having up and down lighters. This is really lovely effect at night. So this is obviously your neighbour's garage wall, and what I'd like to do is have it rendered, painted, so it's a nice clean minimal sort of surface, not the brickwork. I think this cladding would look awful against brick, so we must have this clean sort of backdrop first of all, and then that allows us to fix lighting either side on a nice flat surface, and then we'll have uplighters in this planting border here. Now I don't want you to think of this as a massive amount of planting, Terry. Honestly, it's really just like one big oversized container. It's just built in, and we can fill it with pebbles, like a white Scottish cobble, sort of big pebbles, and just have very sporadic planting. I'm just going to put in some plants there. I'm thinking something quite sculptural, architectural. So this is just an idea, but this is going to be shaded by this wall. So these are just box balls. They're kind of a little hedging plant that you can buy in these lovely spheres. And I really like this effect. 3 of those with some soft, fluffy, sort of fern type foliage around them. The lights will be hidden in, and the lighting effect on this wall will be absolutely lovely. Taking that lighting and the idea of lighting a little bit further, I want to do a little pebble channel all the way around the turf, so the artificial turf doesn't go right up to the wall or right up to the fence, but we've got this little break. It's just more of a kind of design feature. It makes it look a whole lot nicer and a whole lot more kind of thought about in terms of design. And that takes us on to this lovely new cladding that we'll use, fencing that we'll use. So this is the horizontal timber slat fencing panels that we talked about, which will look really lovely. Again, just sleek and contemporary. We'll have lighting, uplighters around here. And then in the corner here, at the moment, this is where you've got that big tree. It's not that special. It casts quite a lot of shade in the garden, and this is something that I want to sort of put up for discussion. But I wanted to show you the effect of just if we remove that tree and replace it with something much smaller and more ornamental. You know, if you're going to have just one tree in your garden, make it a pretty one. So in here I've just put at the moment a multi-stemmed birch tree, silver birch, which has got beautiful bark, and we can keep it small and contained, and it will just be dappled shade. It won't be that big thick heavy leaf that you've got at the moment. It's a much smaller leaf, and it will create dappled shade in this corner. Alternatively, if you don't want to replace with another sort of tree like that, you could go even smaller and have something like Japanese Acer, something like a purple leafed small ornamental Acer, but it's literally just one very small tree, but really good stunning effect. A few plants in there, and that's kind of enough, I think. That I mean, See, if it was my garden, I'd want to fill it all up with plants, but I totally understand that's not your thing. You want something clean and contemporary and easy to take care of. So that's what I've come up with. Now, if we go round into this corner here and look at it from the other point of view, just move that over a little bit, then you can see the suggestions I've made for paving. Now, I think if this whole area is just one solid colour, it gets a little bit too car parky. It's a little bit too much all of one thing, especially if we go for the sort of darker colours that you were thinking about. So what I'd really like to do is break up that paving with just a little bit of sort of edging and a bit of contrast with a lighter colour. So you can see this effect in the brochures. They do it quite a lot. Let me show you this one. In the Marshalls brochure, this is the Symphony vitrified paving. It's very sleek and contemporary with that lovely grey. We'd go for a selection of sizes and lay them all in a uniform pattern like this, all going one way, not all random patterns, but quite a sort of uniform pattern. And you can see how they've picked out just this lighter detail of the lighter stone to create almost like a sort of border. And it just ties in really nicely with the walls. You can see they've used that horizontal slat fencing here as well. And they've just got a green, this is box hedging in a straight line with a couple of pyramids. So for our garden, that would be, you know, the darker sort of slate colour, grey. This colour is coming out too dark, actually it would be a lighter than it's showing up on the model. And then we would cut in just this little bit of detail, and I've taken it around there as well just because I think it kind of accentuates the curve of the circle here. And also, just as a little bit of a design detail within the circle, I'd like to go at a 45-degree angle. You can see how I've kind of marked in the paving slabs there. Just gives it that little bit of extra detail. Now in this corner, again, I wanted to put a little bit of greenery around here in the pots, and I've just put in a covered sort of shelter, a timber shelter. We can stain it grey, we can paint it, or you can keep it timber. Enough room for your barbecue to sort of be tucked under there. And I just want to show you how that looks once we get some furniture back in there. So now this gazebo is also kind of optional. I've put it in there just so you can see what it would look like. But in here you can see how with this circle we could do something like this with a beautiful circular sofa. Plenty of room there for chilling out with your friends. You can have a fire pit in the middle to extend the evening time. We can talk about lighting up in the gazebo and lighting around the edge, and these pots would be illuminated as well. But obviously this is up for discussion. You don't have to have the gazebo. It depends what kind of feel you want, really. I'm just going to take that out or hide it so that you can see without there. So without the gazebo it's a lot more open, and it's still kind of cosy because you've got this circular paving wrapping around, so it's still going to be quite a nice cosy area, and you've got this wrap around extension of the paving sort of detail around here as well, that curve. So there we have it. It's quite simple. I've gone very, very simple. This is all the artificial turf, so you've got plenty of room for that, and you've got plenty of room to step out from the conservatory there, and there's even room for another little set here on this patio area here if you wanted to. So yeah, perhaps you can give me some feedback on that and whether you like it with or without the gazebo. Let's pop it back in. There's it without, and there's it with. So hopefully that gives you a good sense. If I drop down here, you can even see how that would look from your conservatory. You know, you've got something lovely to look out onto from there, and when you're in your dining room, you've got that beautiful focal point straight ahead of these windows going right out there. And also the raised planter gives you just a little bit of height over in that side as well, and a detail on that side of the garden. So hopefully you can see how much this opens up your garden, how much more space you're going to end up with without all these big shrubs and without the big tree, and hopefully you'll have a nice clear view depending on how much of this shrubbery you can get rid of, if the farmer allows, hopefully. Another just a little feature, because we've got this white walls here and the stonework here, I was just playing with the idea of rendering a little section of your garage wall here just to kind of balance things up. It would be nice if we could do a little section on the back here just as a little backdrop there and tie the whole design in. And I was tempted to try and do the same on this garage wall at the back. Now obviously once those sheds are removed and taken down, I was a little bit worried that this might end up as a bit of an ugly wall. Trying not to be rude, but you're going to be looking straight at that wall as well when you're sitting here, so I think it's important to sort of try and pretty this up a little bit. And I would like to put a rendered panel behind there as well, but looking at the photos I see that there's quite a lot of pipe guttering and pipe work, and it looks like there's a pipe that goes diagonally across this wall, which we might have to think about something taller in these pots perhaps to hide that a little bit, or whether there's something we can do with that guttering to sort of reroute it. What I don't want to end up with is this beautiful area of brand new paving and you not feeling like it's a very attractive place to sit. Hopefully once it's all cleaned up and the brand new paving and you've got new fencing around, it's going to be nice, and we can talk about putting lighting around as well. So there we are, there's option one. Let's go straight back to the overhead view so you can see it. And yeah, this little curve here is just to tie in, so it's all flowing lines. This curve obviously goes this way, and I just wanted to tie that in and curve that off with the pebbles and just one little tree in the corner. So there we are, that's design one with curvy lines.